I commit to you that I will take a hard look at any of those related matters if they come before me if I am confirmed.
Testifying at a Senate committee hearing, that is attorney Laura Swett. She's been nominated by President Trump to serve on the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and Swett is about to make a fool of herself under questioning from Maine Senator Angus King.
Ms. Swett, what's the cheapest form of electricity generation today in the country?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I have not looked into that issue, but I am happy to look into it and answer any questions.
Well, I'll help you. It's wind and solar by a mile, by a factor of 2.
And that is Energy 101. The senator's question wasn't a gotcha. It wasn't a policy trap. Hello, everybody. David Shuster here. For Laura Swett or anybody else who might regulate our energy grid to be unaware of such a basic fact about energy generation is beyond stunning. Energy is at the heart of the U.S. economy, our national security, and the fight against climate change. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, while unknown to much of the public, plays a pivotal role in overseeing energy infrastructure and markets. And Senator King pointed out that the enlightenment of some states about renewable energy is making a huge difference.
Do you know, let's take a case study, Iowa. Any idea how much wind power supplies to the economy of the electricity supply of Iowa?
No, sir, I don't know those specific numbers.
60%. Iowa is the 15th lowest electricity cost in the country, and in the past year, as we've already learned, average electricity prices across the country have gone up between 6 and 10%. In Iowa, it's actually gone down 0.5%.
That's right. Iowa electricity prices have gone down while most of the rest of the country's prices have gone up. Swett's ignorance on all of this isn't just an embarrassing oversight, it's a disqualifying red flag. Imagine nominating someone to the Department of Transportation who doesn't know that the most common mode of commuting in America is by car. Or imagine a Secretary of Agriculture who cannot name the top crop grown in the United States. You or I might have to do the Google thing to know that the top crop is corn, but government officials responsible for policy decisions and regulations in agriculture or transportation or energy should know the basics off the top of their head. And regarding electricity generation, the industry has urgent challenges.
Let's talk about the central reality that we're facing today, which has been mentioned several times, and that is the incredible increase of demand of electricity. The chairman in the last hearing that we had indicated some data that we're looking at 2% a year increase in demand. Over 10 years compounded, that's a 30%. That's a staggering increase. The question is, there are two issues. One is the power availability, and the second is time.
The Trump administration wants to try and meet the growing energy demands through fossil fuels like oil and gas. And President Trump himself has often ridiculed solar and wind.
We will not allow a windmill to be built in the United States. They're killing us. They're killing the beauty of our scenery, our valleys, our beautiful plains.
But building new oil and gas refineries and electricity generation plants takes far longer than wind and solar.
There's no question that wind and solar are the quickest to deploy. Senator Heinrich mentioned if you wanted a new gas turbine plant today, it would be about 7 years between permitting and the fact that there's a 5-year wait time for a turbine. A major solar project can go online in a year and a half. So I just hope that you all will be true to your word today and not follow what amounts to an ideology.
Conservative ideology, though, might as well be in Laura Swett's DNA. She worked for years as a lawyer defending oil and gas pipelines, and she helped on Project 2025, the blueprint for Donald Trump's second administration, and wrote out the new strategy for the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Quote, under it, commissioners would be barred from favoring carbon-free power or justifying costs for advancing vague societal benefits such as climate change. It called for an end to long-range grid planning, leaving it to states, and it called on FERC to focus exclusively on electric reliability by remaking the way markets price electricity, revaluing coal, gas, and nuclear power so they compete with cheaper sources of wind and solar power. In other words, a major boost for fossil fuels and a major setback for cheaper renewable sources of wind and solar. Such favoritism for oil and gas is clearly easier when you don't realize or accept that wind and solar are cheaper. But ignorance is bliss with the Trump administration and its nominees, including Laura Swett. Let me be clear. This criticism of Swett is not about partisanship, it's about competency. The cost of solar has plummeted over the past decade, falling by nearly 90%. According to Lazard's most recent levelized cost of energy analysis, utility-scale solar now beats coal, gas, and even wind in many regions, and that's without subsidies. That's not a left-wing talking point, that's basic economics. That's what the markets and the math tell us. To pretend otherwise or to be unaware of this seismic shift is like showing up to a job interview for a weatherman gig and not knowing that rain comes from clouds. It's a lack of preparedness that borders on negligence. The American public deserves regulators who are informed, forward-looking, and grounded in reality, not ones who are stuck in the fossil-fueled assumptions of the past. If Laura Swett cannot identify solar as the cheapest form of energy in America, she has no business sitting on the commission that will help decide America's energy future. It's that simple. She has already humiliated herself in a Senate hearing. Enough already.
The grid is not prepared for this increase in demand. And one of the concerns I have is the cost of expanding the grid to meet this demand is going to be gigantic. Ms. Swett talked to me about utilizing grid-enhancing technologies as opposed to simply building in the old way and adding this cost to the consumers.
Thank you for the question, Senator. I fully share your sentiment that we should be maximizing the resources that we already have, including the existing grid. And as someone who has represented transmission owners in the past, I understand the technology behind that and the potential benefits that can be realized from GETS.
But you also understand, if you've done that kind of representation, that it's the incentive to the transmission owner is to build, not do the low-cost, no-cost improvements. And therefore, I think FERC has to think about how do we incentivize the adoption of these technologies, because letting the market play as it normally would, where the transmission owner has the incentive to actually build rather than make the grid more efficient. So I hope you'll bear that in mind.
Thank you, Senator. Yes, I understand that transmission incentives have been heavily litigated at FERC, and FERC has been facing those very difficult issues for many years. And I commit to you that I will take a hard look at any of those related matters if they come before me, if I am confirmed.
By the way, the damage Donald Trump has now done to the U.S. economy and to the U.S. jobs market is getting attention across the cable news political spectrum.
22,000 jobs added in the month of August. That was much less than the expectation of 75,000 guys.
There's no way to sugarcoat this. This jobs report is brutal.
It's not good. What is it showing us? What we know, the economy is slowing.
That 22,000 number, Charles, it's a weaker than expected number, and these revisions are pretty brutal.
Yeah, extraordinarily.
Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from Sarah, who wrote, wait. You mean the person who bankrupted casinos? No way. I hear you. I look forward to reading your comments about Donald Trump's nominee to be an energy regulator who doesn't know energy basics and saw her ignorance exposed at a Senate hearing. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.